You're listening to the You Don't Know Me Yet podcast network.
Hey, you are tuned in to Two Gems and a Mic with hosts Tinesha the Diva Mahomes and Linda LD Dorsey. Just know, if we talking about it, you need to hear about it. Unwind and enjoy. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Two Gems and a Mic. We hate that we missed y'all last week, but if you had seen me, you'd understand. Suffering from a little abscess, so I might still be a little swollen, but I look way better. And I appreciate you, Darren. Darren said he was ready to fly in and take care of some folks because he saw that picture.
Yeah.
I thought I was like Mike Tyson. I was finna, come at least try to defend your honor. It wasn't gonna end well for me either, but I was gonna come out there.
It was not a pretty scene.
I was
But
like, gotta be handy with the steel, if you know what I mean. I was like, regulators. I was like, why is she looking like that? We got to get in there and save her. What's going down? It's okay though. I'm glad you're feeling better.
I appreciate the love. So we want to welcome Darren Smith and Pat, Silky P Mahomes to the show. We're gonna jump right in. Let's talk about last night and this college football championship. I'm gonna start with you, Darren, since you selected Ohio State earlier to win it.
Thank you. Well, I mean, it was a good game. Actually, Notre Dame had the right thought process and in their opening drive. They literally mirrored everything that the Houston Texans did against the Chiefs Saturday, and start up the second half with trying to control the clock and running I think Notre Dame started out with an 18 drive, 75-yard play that resulted in a touchdown. Took I think over 10 minutes off the clock. So, and it's funny when they got up 7-0 and then for Ohio State to come back and tie it at 7-7. I was thinking like, how's this going to be a high scoring game? Because it's a lot of time off, and it's almost halftime. Ain't nothing but 7:30 in the evening. So,
right,
it was, to me, it was a good matchup. It ended up being the score was much closer than it felt like the game really was, and really just at the end of the day, talent outweighed everything else, and they just had the star players, man. They just had too many stud athletes at the end of the day, including the wide receiver Jeremiah Smith.
Agreed. Pat, what you say?
It went about how I expected. I actually knew Notre Dame was in trouble after the first drive there when they went down and took all that time off, and they panned over and the quarterback was puking. So, he was, I mean, that tell you the toll that it had on him. I think on that first series, he had like 9 rushes, and to get down in there, it was beautiful. They went down and scored, but just the amount of energy that it took, for that first drive for them, I just kind of feel like it kind of, zapped his energy, and it was going to be tough sledding from then on.
Right. Tanisha, what you think?
I mean, I thought it went the exactly what the way it was that I thought it was going to go. I didn't expect Notre Dame to win. I thought they were going to lose the game. I think after watching Ohio from the previous game, I felt like they had much more of the advantage. I really thought it would be a bigger blowout than what it was. They had some fights, so you got to commend Notre Dame for not giving up and trying to make a run towards the end of the game. But like Darren said, that game was a lot. It was a lot more space between talent than the actual the score reflects.
Agreed. I think that play in the fourth, of course, was key when they got that. What was it? 57-yard play.
Yeah,
They fielded for him. Yeah, that was it. Because Notre Dame. I wanted to ask one question about it. We gonna stay on it too long. What y'all think about him going forward on? Not going forward on fourth down and kicking the field goal.
I had no problem with that. They had to score, 2 touchdowns and get two 2 2-point conversions. So to me, that kind of took some of the air out of it. I still thought they had enough time to, have a chance to do exactly what they did, have a chance to win the game.
Mm-hmm.
If they get a stop there, on that third down, they get the ball back with enough time to go down there and get another touchdown. I just feel like that at that point, if you get all the way down there and you go for it on fourth down and you get nothing to show for it, even though they did get nothing to show for it, it would have been very, very deflating. And I think him missing that field goal was very, very deflating because they had the momentum going. Yeah, if you make the fourth down, yeah, and you score a touchdown, yeah, it's great. But to me, at least you gave your team a chance to get something positive out of it, and then your defense has to play in, and then you got to try to make some more plays on offense.
Great.
Yeah, I thought that was the game. I thought that's pretty much was the wrap. When he missed that, I was like, good Lord.
Yeah, you kind of see
it's a wrap.
Yeah, the air coming out of the team or whatever.
Yep.
A good run, though. A good run for them. They have nothing. I mean, of course, nobody wants to hear that right after, you lose. But it was a good season. I think it was unexpected. Early on when they lost in the year, folks were like, does this kill Notre Dame's chance to make it to the college football playoffs? And it didn't, and they fared very well.
Okay.
Yep. All right. Let's jump into this NFL division. We can wrap it up with the Chiefs in the divisional round. I think let's talk about Washington and Detroit. Who wants to jump off?
I mean, Jaden Daniels as a rookie shows that he's probably one of the best, if not the best, rookie quarterback to come along in the NFL since since it started. Just by way of where they're at right now, literally everything that Aaron Glenn threw at him, he just brush it off his shoulder. And the fact that he came in, he didn't make any rookie mistakes and played at a high level in hostile crowd territory. Would lead some to believe that he could actually, even though they were my preseason pick on the NFC side to go to Super Bowl, that he could go into Philadelphia, even in inclement weather, and come out with a victory next week. That's what, to me, he showed in last week's win over the Detroit Lions.
Absolutely. Well, he in inclement weather. I mean, he's played in plenty of it. I mean, like he knows it's cold there, so it's not like it's new to him. I think that I'm trying to think who was it that said it between us, but maybe you said it, Linda, that you thought he should have been the first overall pick. Was it you?
Yes.
Yeah. And I think that was debatable there for a little bit with some of at the last minute right before the draft happened. But most people felt like Caleb was the safest choice that you could go with for a first round pick because of what he had already done and what he had proved in college.
He sold himself. He sold himself as the number one pick. Yeah. Yeah. I think a lot of people, even with the Heisman, I think a lot of people slept on Daniels. Now everybody, even the Washington fans, they're like, oh, they're surprised.
Well, I was more worried about his size more so than his ability.
Yeah, I saw the hits that he took. You're right, because it's different. I saw the hits that he took, but I think too, coaching makes a big difference. I think what is the quarterback whisperer?
Kingsbury.
Yeah. At the beginning of the season, I was like, let the dude loose, let him loose, and they had a plan. Whatever his plan was is working because now they have that trust in each other.
Oh yeah, he's comfortable too.
Very.
I mean, and every win is just his confidence. He's getting, I'm telling you, I don't see that game as a blowout coming up here. I think that game is going to be tight. I think Philly fans are starting to realize that they it's rough. It's no joke here.
Well, them being
just playing football.
Yeah, that definitely opens your eyes. Pat, what you think?
Well, I mean, honestly, I think that Cliff got him another Patrick. I don't know about the quarterback whispering thing he said because Cliff did have Kyler Murray and that didn't go as planned, but I think he's got him another type of athlete like Patrick. Now, this boy probably has a little bit more athletic ability for the way that he can run the ball. But what I'm talking about, he got him another Patrick is he's got a guy that the moment isn't too big. You know, he's loading him up with a lot, and he's able to, digest it and make the plays. And I feel like the thing that I look at it with this guy, and I've been saying it now for about a month, why he reminds me a lot of Patrick is that I look at him on the sideline, and no matter what's happening, whether they're winning or losing, his demeanor is always the same.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that you can't teach. You're saying
He never looks rattled.
he never looks rattled. And as far as him being the first pick overall, and I never thought that. I still feel like Caleb Williams was the right choice. I just feel like he hasn't been in the right situation yet.
Okay.
It'll be interesting to see now with them hiring, the guy from the Lions, how that turns out. But Cliff knows what to do with a quarterback like that, and that's a good thing. He doesn't have to worry about coaching the whole team. I don't think there's nobody can ever say that Cliff's offenses haven't been up to par. Even with Patrick at Texas Tech, when they were losing all those games, the whole thing was defense. It was never offense. So, getting that type of athlete and knowing what to do with him and knowing how to put him in a position to succeed, that's all you can ask from a coach. And I feel like that he feels that the coach is in his corner and in his back, and it makes your job a lot easier out there to go out there and play football.
My only concern, I know we're about to close on this subject, but my only concern is that with that success, there is talk that will Kingsbury move on to a head coaching gig that would leave him after 1 year. So because I think the Raiders are now looking to interview him after after the playoffs. Whenever they're at the playoffs to try to see about filling in their head coaching vacancy.
Well,
And just for the record, I also do agree that Caleb was the right guy to pick. Not just because I just think that, like you said, he just hasn't, the system hadn't hit there yet. I don't think by any shape, form, or fashion this 1 year here determines what Caleb is going to be. I think Caleb is going to be a very good quarterback.
I don't know about that. I mean, well, my only pushback to that is that every situation is different because we could say that had Caleb gone to DC and Jaden to Chicago, would the scenario be the same? What I'm saying, would Chicago still be a playoff team? I'm sorry, would DC would Washington still be a playoff team if Caleb was there versus what we saw this first year out with Caleb and them? Because you got to think about it, they knew that head coach from 2 years ago, that they fired last year, wasn't a good offensive coach. And the fact that you kept him on and didn't bring a good OC in, saying that, after you fired everybody else that was on that staff says a lot about the organization, then making the right decisions for Caleb at that time. Now, we hope that they got it right when it comes to bringing in Ben Johnson, seeing what his staff looks like. But, because look, that's just like saying, had the Bears drafted Mahomes or Watson, back in 2017, that they would still be as successful as what we're seeing with the Chiefs are now. And I just don't believe it. I think had they drafted Patrick with the number 2 pick in Chicago, I still, I don't think we're on this podcast now talking about Patrick Mahomes, because I just think that the Bears at that time just wasn't a good organization and they would have messed him up.
Well, I would disagree wholeheartedly. I would disagree. I
It
don't
would
think
be no Super Bowl. I could promise you
I
that.
don't know. I don't know if he would be in no Super Bowl, but the numbers would be pretty much the same because for the simple fact that there's not a manuscript or a blueprint of how Patrick plays. Patrick makes plays instinctively, and that's not coached.
Patrick, yes, but the organization and what they would have surrounded him with
I got that. I
is
got
where I'm
that.
coming from.
But Patrick has been in several organizations, coming up. If you go all the way back to his high school days where there wasn't a good structure and they've always been successful. It just it might have took a little longer. Now it might not have been as quick, but I think if you put him in that situation and him knowing how to adapt to what he has to play with, I think that will be fine because of the simple fact that Chicago always has a good defense. And Patrick's going to put points on the board no matter, what offense he plays in.
Yeah, I do agree with Pat on that because I've seen it personally, and even last year to me, I mean, even the group that he had with him last year, nobody was expecting the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl. Name me one. That just wouldn't. You did? You believed that he was going to win the Super Bowl with his
I mean, it was my
supporting
preseason
cast?
pick. I wasn't gonna. It was my preseason pick. I just didn't expect him to play the way they did along the way.
Exactly.
I believe that I believe that he's one of the few that can do a lot with a little.
And like I said, I don't disagree with that. My biggest pushback would be who would have been the coach in the organization. And that's just because let's say he went to Cleveland or someplace.
Oh, I agree. I agree
So
with
that's where my pushback is. It's nothing against Patrick's talent. It's the organization on down. And so I'm saying he was in a great situation coming to Kansas City.
Okay.
And I agree with that. Yeah, I agree with all that.
Okay.
It goes back to where they should have sat a year or two. Yeah, it did help him, and yes, it helped him immensely. But I feel like that if he'd have started right away, he'd have been okay. Yeah, I feel like he'd have been okay.
Okay.
All right.
Well, we're talking about the Chiefs a lot, so let's talk about that other side of the game, the Chiefs and the Texans. I'm gonna start with you, Pat.
Well, as you can see, it's cigar season. So I started a little early.
Smoking on the Strouds.
Yeah, so it's gonna be a hell of a game, man. It's gonna be a hell of a game, and fortunately for the Chiefs, we've been in hell of a games all year. So we know how to grind. We know how to win those games. I think Kelsey showed that he's ready to go again. I don't know what it is. I feel like DeAndre is going to have a monster game. I know he hasn't done much since he's been there, but I think this is going to be a DeAndre and Hollywood Brown game. I think Worthy's going to do some things that he need to do, but I really feel like they're going to unveil him in this game because he's going to have such a size advantage on the cornerbacks for Buffalo. Now, Josh is going to keep coming. That's one thing you can know. And that's one thing you can say about Josh Allen. He's going to keep coming. And I don't, talk about, they say, well, he cut down on his turnovers and stuff like that. Well, the games that Josh has played against us, hell, he didn't turn the ball over, really. He played really, really well, and we were still able to beat him. So that really doesn't apply. I just think that it's going to be one of those games where you're going to see two great warriors going back, going at it. And I just feel like we have enough tape and footage on Josh Allen that we will be able to do some things that other teams couldn't do. I just don't see him running the ball like he does against everybody like he did against us early in the year. I think that was a case where you don't show everything that you got. I think the Spags would dial up something and he will be able to control it a little bit more. And I just feel like we'll grind it out.
Okay, so you jumped ahead to our next, which was going to be the Chiefs versus the Bills. I want you to get your insight on the Texans and the Chiefs.
Well, that game went like, I expected. I mean, I saw Darren was a little disappointed that we didn't score more points, but that hasn't been our MO all year. And it don't matter if you got 23 days or whatever, you do enough to win. I mean, yeah, it would have been nice to blow them out, and it would be nice to blow out several teams this year. But the whole thing about playoff football is to survive in advance, and once you survive in advance, you got a chance for the next game. So that game went about how I expected. The penalties and all that complaining stuff. I don't buy into
Yeah,
all that. Yeah, Patrick. I've been telling Patrick now for 9 years that he needs to get his butt down or get out of bounds and stop playing around like that. I said, back when we played, we had a guy they called a goon, and they'd put him in. He hardly ever played, and his job was to take the quarterback out, no matter if he got kicked out or whatever. And I said, you just put yourself in position for that to happen. But, with helmet to helmet and all that, and I grew up, you lost. There wasn't no excuses, and no matter how it happened. So that's just my.
Yeah, I'm all excused out too. That's what I was talking about before you came on. Is like, you know, it's gotten to the point. There's some fatigue, the winning fatigue. They're just tired of seeing the Chiefs some kind of way turn around and win. Let a lot of the fans have it some kind of way. When they blocked the punts against when they blocked the field goal attempt against the Broncos, that's rigged. Everything's rigged when the team that you don't want to win is winning. And so I think the Chiefs know that they're not loved out there other than by their fan base, and it will not bother them much at all. I think they're going to play their game, and we're going to see a good game because I know Josh is going to bring it. But I do believe the Chiefs have enough to get them. That was not the team that I was worried about the Chiefs playing. I was worried about, believe it or not, the Chiefs playing the Ravens, not the Bills. Not to disrespect the Bills because the Bills have a good team. It's just that I just thought that the Ravens were built a little bit better to handle the Chiefs. Mm-hmm.
Well, let me say that as it relates to what Pat said. So my disappointment in the scoring is you had enough time, and so for for me with those 3 weeks off, and you had already seen this thing because you just played them 4 weeks earlier, is that we were going to hear so much about the rest versus the rust, and for me it was more so, and I don't know, I'm getting some feedback in my ear, but
Me
for
too.
some reason, I was hearing, I was seeing a lot. I was seeing a lot of like the first 7 plays went to Isaiah Pacheco and it wasn't working out. I'm like, okay, we've got to do something about this. And when you get a long kickoff return to start the game off and you're inside the red zone, you need to come away with 7 versus 3. And for me, it was just like, okay, if you get that 7 there, the whole rest stuff really doesn't really want to apply because you'll have to because you get the second possession from further on your side of the field to try to march down and make something happen. But then again, some of the play calling is always kind of questionable to me because it's like you put when you're down in the red zone, you try to reverse or something, try to be cute, and you end up end up with the loss and you're further back and you come away with a field goal versus another 7 points that instead of the 7 points that you left out there on the field. So that's where that's where I come off of as you should have been doing. It didn't look as clean as it should have looked. And look, I mean, and I'm all for second half adjustments on what teams do, but that opening half to me should have been a statement that should have been made. For the other 3 games and the other teams that were watching the game or whatever, like this is because again, if you think about the offense in the first time that Hollywood, they were essentially at full strength in that Houston game. That was the first game he was back. It looked, that offense in that game versus this game looked totally different. And so that was my biggest concern in that game, that it did not look as clean as it could. And look, I do know that Andy and them are probably holding stuff back to this weekend, and if that's the case, great, because you kind of got to open the book and let everything out because there's no guarantee that that you're going to make it to New Orleans. So if that's the case, put it all out there, open up the playbook, make sure this time around again for Hollywood and for D Hop to have 0 receptions, inexcusable, but you come away with the win. So
Okay. Agreed. All right, let's go on. We're gonna talk about the Rams and the Eagles.
it's all Saquon Barkley. It's just Saquon Barkley and turnovers. I don't know
Yeah,
what to say about
I
after
didn't
that.
think the Rams performed that great, and they were right there in the game. So not an impressed. I wasn't impressed with the performance by Philly. Um, Yes, Saquon got his. I was underwhelmed by the way the Rams played, and that could be due to weather or whatever. But
I would say this, and we talked about it on our radar. Jalen Hurts is not going to be able to continue to, pass for 130, 124, whatever, and rely so much on Saquon Barkley and continue to win like that. That's just my opinion, but I just don't think that he has to raise his level of play up for them to be successful. They had obviously weather that worked in their condition or worked in their favor, and Saquon, I mean, he did what he did. So, but if it's an even playing field, or he goes up against Mahomes again, he's going to have to throw that football and can't rely just on Saquon.
I kind of disagree a little bit, D. I know it normally don't happen. I kind of disagree because um, just to go back real quickly to make my point, the Chiefs passed for 178. And I've seen a lot of 178s, 180s this year, and we won those games. I think the game dictates how you play it. To me, he hasn't had to pass a lot. He hasn't needed to pass a lot. I mean, I don't know how many attempts he's had these last few games and how many he's missing or whatever, but when you got that workhorse back there doing what he's doing, I think the less that you turn the ball over, the better opportunity that you have to win, and that takes the risk out of him having to throw the ball. Plus, with him running and Saquon running, it gives you still a dual threat, but you also have to weigh in the factor that you got those two guys, A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith out there, and you can't lax on your coverage, because if you do, then he will hit you. We saw it in the Super Bowl, against the Chiefs when he hit A.J. Brown for that long touchdown. I mean, that's still a fear factor there. So as long as he's not turning over the ball, I don't know the need to have to pass for 200 and some yards. Josh Allen passed for 100 and some yards this week. They won. So, the game kind of dictates. Now you get in a shootout, yeah, you're going to have to be able to throw the ball. But I just don't really know an offense right now, besides what the Commanders have done the last couple of times, that's going to force you to, have to have that many points. I think you play the game as it goes. I mean, I think the game dictates how you play it.
And also, he did hit AJ down, but he bobbled it and fell out of bounds with it, and that was a bomb he threw. So I mean, he did throw when he needed to throw. But I'm with Pat. I just think at this point, when you get this deep into the season, it's about turnovers. It's about making sure that you don't turn the ball over. I watched Lamar get up there, and Lamar talked about turning the ball over. That's the single reason why they lost that game, because of turnovers. And I think those quarterbacks have gotten smarter, and they're like, I'm not going to take my team out of the game. We're not going to lose it because I'm turning the ball over. So I think, yes, he played a little bit conservative or whatever, but at the end of the day, if you're getting a win, is a win. Don't nobody care. I really don't care if you win the Super Bowl 6-3. It doesn't matter. I mean, and have 50 yards. It does not matter. You want the win. And I think these guys are more focused on not being the reason that their team loses. And I think that's why you're seeing quarterbacks not just going out, just doing all that. They're making sure that they keep their team in the game at all times. And with Saquon, you don't have to do all that. That dude is a monster.
I agree.
A complete monster.
I agree that turnovers, but I don't think turnovers was the only thing that killed the Ravens. They had a lot.
I mean, that's what Lamar was speaking on. I'm just referring to what he said.
Yeah, his whole thing was they got to do better, right? And everybody talked about it. So you got Derrick Henry out there all alone. He drops one. Mark Anthony dropped a couple. You can't have that. And I think the Mark Andrews. Did I say Anthony?
Yeah, you did.
Okay, thank you. And I don't know how much of we can't say how much of an impact, but I think somewhat of an impact. You don't have Zay Flowers. So I think that game is different. I think the Ravens, in many ways, beat themselves. So, yeah, I don't know. We'll see. But I did want to your point, Pat. I'm curious to see how this game is going to play with Philly and Washington, because the last game it was a high scoring game, 36-33. So is it going to force them to have to throw the ball, or is it going to be able to run the ball more? They did lose that game also to them on the 22nd of December. So we'll see what happens with that. But let's go to the last game we got remaining in the Sunday slot, because we talked about everything else. So yeah, let's talk about that. Who want to
Well,
lead us off?
it was a good game, man. I think everybody wanted to see it. Josh versus Lamar, and um, like I said, a turnover here, a turnover there, drop here, drop there. That's the difference in the game. Neither team that I think was really, really sharp, per se. It was kind of a sloppy game, and it was just another one of those games where whoever made the least amount of mistakes won. Um, the fumble was big. The interception, even though they end up surviving that without, giving up any points. But I mean, when you got, two teams like that, that's, heavy on the run, and it just comes down to who's going to make plays at the right time, and Josh was able to make them.
Okay, Tinesha.
No, I mean, I talked about it earlier. I mean, the fumble I think was huge, the interception there, but that drop, the drops. I mean, you put your team in position to go at least tie it up, and a routine ball is dropped again in a crucial time of the game. And that's not to say that that's the reason why they lost the game. It's a combination of everything. It's a team sport. The team loses the game, but it was those things that it came down to, the strip in the middle of the field, after catching the ball. I mean, there were things, they just had turnovers, and at the end of the day, that cost them.
Let's go ahead. Go ahead, Darren.
I'm gonna be honest. I think it's a combination of, yeah, the turnovers happen, and they didn't come at a good time, but they were still in the game and had a chance to tie the game and take it in overtime. That drop, well, for whatever it is, that's something that Mark Andrews going to deal with for a long time, because if it was in his hands, he was in the end zone, and still bobbled it and dropped it. Before he had a chance to try to make any corrections on it, and that of course clinched the game for Buffalo. I think, to me, one of the biggest crimes is that you brought in Derrick Henry, and again they got away from him. He had 16 carries for, I think, 84 yards. The first time when they got down to the end zone, I think it might have been in the third quarter, and they got down, I think, to the 2 yard line. I don't care what you do. You run him at least three times to try to get you those points, to get you a touchdown, and I can't remember what the score was at the time, but I know I don't think they were more than one score behind, or something to that effect. But you give him the ball three times, and really that's four down territory. Saying, depending on where you're at, you give him the ball, and then you give them the ball for the 2 point conversion, I think, after they did score. And the fact that you went back down there, you threw a bomb, and of course you end up with the touchdown. I don't know. If it's me, I'm putting the ball in either Lamar's hands or Derrick Henry's hands to get the 2 points, versus what ended up happening with Mark Andrews. But you know, we always want to say, whether the better team won. Sometimes, as I say all the time, coaching matters too. You got to put your players in good situations. And again, even with all the turnovers that they had, and I know they had three, they were still right there at the very end. So.
All right, we're gonna
But I don't think the play it wasn't a bad play. He was open.
No. I'm not saying it's a bad play. I'm just saying I probably would have just given the ball to Derrick Henry. That's all I'm saying on that.
Okay. All right, Darren, I'm gonna stay there with you. Conference matchups, AFC, NFC, and tell me why.
Well, I've got the Eagles and the Chiefs because that's who I picked before the season. So I'm not gonna go against my own picks. But But again, I think, and I always said, because initially I thought it was going to be 49ers and the Eagles, and I said whoever had home field advantage, I thought would, that would be the difference maker, as it's been over the last few seasons. I do still believe in that in this particular matchup. However, Jaden Daniels has shown that he's like Mahomes. He's got ice in his veins. No moment is too big for him, and I think it's going to go down to the wire. And I will say this: if it's close in the fourth quarter and Jaden Daniels has a chance to go down the field and get the win, it would not surprise me one bit whatsoever if Washington were to somehow pull the upset, because they did it against they did it against Baker Mayfield, they did it against Detroit, and there's really nothing outside of history that would say that he couldn't do it this time around. In the AFC, talking to the players in the locker room last week, everyone outside of Charles Omenihu wanted the Buffalo Bills, based on the loss that they suffered in Week 10. Omenihu, just because he wanted some get back from the from the AFC Championship game last year in Baltimore, where he suffered the injury. But I do think it'll be a close matchup early on, but I think the Chiefs pull away, and I've got them winning 35-24 over the Buffalo Bills to get to the Super Bowl once again.
All right, we're gonna talk about it next week after we see what happens. Pat, what you got? AFC, NFC. I think you already gave us your AFC. Chiefs winning that game. Who you got in the NFC? Take yourself off mute. Pat, you hit mute, please. All right, go ahead. Yep.
I got the Chiefs winning. I think it's going to be a good game, 31-28. And I have the Commanders in the upset.
Okay.
I think that it will be Mahomes and Mahomes 2.0 in the Super Bowl.
All right.
Hey, Pat, who was your preseason Super Bowl pick besides the Chiefs?
49ers.
Okay.
I think you and I had the same, Darren. A repeat.
Who's got Tanisha?
I do have Philly winning and the Chiefs as well. I have them playing for the Super Bowl, and the reason why is because when they played earlier in the year, I distinctly remember, Philly seeming like they had the upper hand, and they met again. But remember, Jalen got knocked out of that game, or something happened, and they ended up losing that game. But I feel like that with Jalen there, he too is a person who I don't think moments get too big for him. Okay. So he's gonna be playing against a stud. And I just think Jalen's got the experience. He's been there, and I think it's gonna pay out in that game. So that's what I got.
Okay. I'll give you mine before we go and wrap it up. I'm going with the Chiefs, and I'm going with Washington. I don't know if it's just because I'm in the area and I feel it. I see it on TV. And you know me, I'm a Giants fan, right? So you don't never root for the Commanders, Redskins, whatever you want to call them. But I think this kid is special, so it's just something. Maybe it's God's favor or whatever. I don't know. But I just feel like they can pull it off, and I'm not a Philly fan, so that's probably why I'm leaning more.
Yeah, and Baltimore is already out, so
Yeah, I was going for
Well, we know that.
Yeah, I was looking for Baltimore. I would love to see Chiefs Baltimore again, a rematch. Yeah,
they just don't know how to win up there in that area.
They really.
You Knicks. When it comes down to
playoffs.
Well,
and she picked. Hold on. And she picked against the Liberty. I was the only one that picked that New York team.
Yes. Y'all go ahead and get it out.
Well, I'm just saying. You had one, like Darren said, you had one chance and you messed that up.
Actually, she had two, because I don't even think she picked the Yankees. Of course, they lost, but she probably picked them.
Did step up in New York right now it was a Liberty, but I ain't got nothing right. I ain't getting nothing right with football. I can't even my picks. I know my picks were so raggedy for football. It's like, and I didn't even pick the Giants. I wasn't even clowning with that. I didn't even pick the Giants. I do believe I had Philly coming out. I had no idea or no anything that
it's all right though, Linda.
The Commanders would be doing that.
They should pick the Cowboys. So I mean. I mean, that just tell you can't pick with your heart, you know.
Well, she just as bad as Steve Walls for picking the Cowboys.
All right. Well, we got that. We're gonna come back. We'll be back next week, Monday or Tuesday, probably Tuesday, with talking about what happened and who's going to the Super Bowl and who we're picking for that. So thank you, Pat and Darren, for jumping on here with us. Always appreciate that. Tanisha, thank you and feel better. And hey everybody, until next time, what do we always say?
Hold up.
Go ahead.
One more last thing.
Yeah.
Darren, now I hate to say this, but I don't know if you turn it into Jason Whitlock or
Never.
Stephen A. Smith now.
I don't do that. I don't need to
stop.
do no hot takes.
You're going to stop. You're going to stop with these Facebook posts.
Yeah. He was wearing them out during the game.
One thing about Facebook posts, once you post them, you're not supposed to respond to them.
Well,
Right, let him ride.
Yeah, you know, Justin Herbert last week, you know, Chiefs not being impressive this week. I mean, we're going to calm down with it. Just
I got you. I got you. Out of respect for you, I told some people, I said, if you don't see me tweet them this weekend, you'll understand why.
You know why?
Even Chief Trout like, damn, you beating us over the head. I'm like, well, you like,
He
we're
was. I
15.
was like, damn.
Hey, they were like, we were 15-2. I said, but damn, you had 3 weeks off. You could have put up more than 13 points in the first half.
I almost chimed in. I had typed something in there. I said, no, I'm gonna back off and leave it alone for Darren and his feelings right now. So
I was in my parlay slip like you. I couldn't score 13.5. See,
Yeah.
but see, I didn't say that. I kept that, to myself.
I got you.
Well, I said I learned my lesson. I ain't chime in at all. I didn't learn my lesson.
Oh yeah,
But they'll take it and run with it. I'm like, no, I'm good.
They'll run over you with it. That's what you mean. Yep. All right.
Yes.
We appreciate y'all, and as always, as we end our shows, please everybody be kind, be blessed, and until next time, peace.
Peace.
Thank you for tuning in to Two Gems and a Mic. Be sure to subscribe and follow. Until next time, remember, be kind, be blessed. Peace.